For this video, we are going to talk about grade setup and gradebook. I'm in my Schoology course and I look at the menu on the left-hand side and I will see I have my grade set up. So we're going to start there because there are some things that you might want to do prior to starting your course with students. The first thing is categories. Categories are things that you can align to every activity, discussion, assessment that you add to your Schoology course. And I can add a category area here. So I'll add assignments. I can say it's calculated by total points or percentages and drop the lowest zero, however I want to do that. And also you might want to check with your district policy. A lot of that will guide how you set up your grade book in Schoology. Another thing to think about as well is this is a basic account, so I am not aligned to a student management system or whatever a district gradebook system might be used. So keep that in mind if you're using enterprise and you are linking to your gradebook system, you'll definitely need to check with your district, or your district will have this set up in a certain way so that the transfer of grades is fluid. So in this category area, I also can weight the categories if I want. That's up to you on how you want to do that in your district policies. I also have grading periods and final weights. In this one, this is a test course, so I have an endless grade period. If you're using an enterprise account, you will be linked most likely to a student management system, and grade categories will be put in by your district, and you might not have to worry about this. To edit it, if you're using a basic account, you can simply name the grade period, and I'm just going to select a random date. And this will add to my course as well. It already exists. I'm going to change the name of this just so you can see. So now I have a second period grading period aligned to this specific course. And I'll show you in future videos when you're creating assignments and so forth, how that applies to your course and how it organizes your grade book. I can also have my gradebook change from numeric if I want. I can round final grades. Most of these are defaulted to a certain way. I have to be honest, I do not change this control grading columns in gradebook. It's up to you and your workflow when you're looking at student grades. And then visibility settings, I also do not select these because I think it's important for students to see their overall grade, and I want to make sure that they have access to that. I did make a change because I added a different grading period. So I am going to save changes. You'll also see on the right-hand side, we have an area over here where I'm using numeric. I could change this if I wanted to. And I do have a rubric in here. Rubrics are great because they make grading very easy. You just click on the box of the rubric and it automatically calculates the grade for you, and you can override it if you need to. Another thing to keep in mind is that when I use a rubric, I can allow students to see that rubric so they know exactly how they are being assessed, which is a great feature of the rubrics. To add rubrics, I can add a rubric. I can title it, and I can just simply add my criteria. I can add additional grading scales. I can delete a grading scale if I want. I can add additional criteria, so I could have numerous criteria here for my students to know how they're being assessed. As for the learning objectives, I can add custom learning objectives that have been pulled in by my district or I have created, or I can look at the other ones that are automatically populated from Schoology. The next gen science standards are here. If I wanted to see the next gen ELA or math standards, I'd have to find New York. And then I can look at the next gen and find the correct standards for the grade level that I want. So what I do is I would boil down and I would see which standards I want to align to this particular activity, and it will automatically pop them in. One thing to keep in mind is that they are not written in student-friendly terms, depending on the age of your students, and you cannot edit these. So keep that in mind. I'm going to delete the ones that I don't have completed, just so you can see that. And so what's nice about this, when you add the criteria, it will add it in that activity. So you'll see that. And if you have mastery, if you have a enterprise account, you'll be able to see student mastery. Those standards will be populated in there, and you'll see how your students are mastering those particular standards as you grade different activities with a rubric. So I'm going to create this rubric, and you'll see I now have two. I can copy this to another course. I can edit it. I can delete it. I can save it to my resources for later use or to share with other people. Something to keep in mind, I can copy and paste from a rubric I've already been using that might be in a different format. However, you cannot import a rubric from a different format. That's the grade setup. Let's look at the grade book. When I look at the grade book, you'll see I have my students on the left-hand side. I can sort them in many different ways, however I want to do that. I can look at all grading periods. I can look at my second period, or I do have a no grading period because I might have added something and had it not aligned to a specific grading period. I'm going to select all grading periods. Actually, I'm going to select no grading period here. So we can see that I have an assignment that was aligned to the no grading period. I can sort my grading by the categories that I have aligned to every activity, discussion, or assessment, if I wanted to do that, or things that are ungraded. I'm just going to click on ungraded so you can see that. So there's numerous items that aren't graded. So it's not something that's always going to show up, but you can align, you can filter it so that it does. You can also filter by due date or view by items that are marked excused, incomplete, missing. Those are nice to filter as you start to do a lot of grading in Schoology, so you can see where you might need to, connect with a student because they have many incompletes or missing assignments. Now, this student, I did grade an assignment for them. You'll see that I can change, I can mark it with an exception. So I can say it's excused, incomplete, missing. I had an override in there. I'm just going to put a grade in here just so we have it. And I had overwritten the grading in the grade. It was for an assessment. So I wanted to put a full grade in there and I overwrote it. That's something that you can do in every assignment that you're grading. This icon here, I will actually be able to go and view the students' work. So some teachers, their grading workflow is that they just go to the grade book and work their way down and grade the students. Some go to the actual activity or discussion or assessment and grade that way. It depends on what you feel your best workflow is. I also can leave a comment for my student and I can make sure it's visible to them. This will show up in their profile where their grade book is, and they'll be able to see that note. That note is only visible to them, or if I allow parent access to their parents as well. If the student hasn't handed it in, and I know that student was exempt for this, I could add excused. And what that will do is it will not filter that grade into the average for this student. You have your plus sign over here in the upper right, and I can add an assignment, test, quiz, discussion, grade column. I can do that at any time. And it looks exactly the same as if you were adding it from the materials. I'm just going to show you really quickly. And you'll see that I can select my grading category. I can put a due date on it. Due dates are nice because it helps keep students organized, shows up in their upcoming, shows up on their calendar. So it's really nice, a nice reminder for them. The categories are the ones that I created in my gradebook already. This would be an assignment. I could align it to a specific grading period or no grading period. You can have multiple grading periods aligned to a particular class because maybe it's a semester class, and you have two marking periods, or a full year class and you have four marking periods. I can grade numerically, or I can add one of my rubrics. If I add a rubric, it automatically defaults to show to students. So that's great. They get to see exactly how they're being assessed. And the criteria of the standards that I put in to my rubric will show up in the assignment as well. So I can add assignments right from my gradebook. I'm not going to save this. And, but that's just that little plus button. The three little dots is I can bulk edit grades, I can print reports, or I can export grades. If you are using a basic account and it's not aligned to a student management system or a student grading system that your district uses, sometimes it's easier to print something out and then transfer those grades into that grade book. However, whatever workflow works for you. And this is just to expand and contract, go full view or partial view of your gradebook. And that is it for grade and gradebook setup.